richest and most prestigious events on the USAC Silver Crown Series, the Bettenhausen 100. From Brownsburg, Indiana, Larry Rice. From Marietta, Ohio, Larry Dixon. Sprint car champion Sheldon Kinzer from Bloomington, Indiana. Originally from Lincoln, Nebraska, Joe Saldana. Rich Vogler from Indianapolis, and back in the Midwest from Huntington Beach, California. And fans from all over the nation have gathered here in Springfield, Illinois at the State Fairgrounds for this 100-mile USAC Championship dirt race. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins along with Larry Nuber, and this is the Tony Bettenhausen 100, a part of the USAC Silver Crown Series. Now, the United States Auto Club sanctions the Indianapolis 500, sprint car races, midget races, and stock car races. But, Larry, with over 50 entries for this race today, it looks like that this dirt division could be their strongest.
Well, I think it certainly is, and I tell you, it's a matter of, is there life after Pocono, Michigan, Phoenix? You know, the United States Auto Club has made a significant change of direction this year and decided to concentrate on the championship dirt cars. And as you pointed out, Bob, if today's field is any indication of, well, the quality of the decision that they've made, it's been a good one because we have a tremendous field of race cars on hand here.
24 cars will start this event. When the green flag falls, it will be all-out racing. No pit stops in today's event.
Certainly is. Foot to the floorboard all the way around. And, you know, this is exciting racing. And also, it's very nostalgic. You know, there's a lot of nostalgia, I think, in all of Americans. And if you ever want to go back in time, this is your opportunity because these race cars look exactly, at least from a distance, the way they did back even in the 40s, maybe the 30s, certainly the 50s and the 60s. And it's just great. We used to call it door-to-door, but I guess in this case it's fiberglass to fiberglass racing.
We'll have qualifying and a 12-lap qualifiers race before the 100-mile main event. We'll be back from Springfield, Illinois in just a moment. Well, people have been watching auto racing at the Illinois State Fairgrounds for many, many years. And as a matter of fact, some of the cars that will be competing today have been on this racetrack many, many times. Larry Nuber had a chance to examine an old and a new championship dirt car.
The championship dirt car. It's an anachronism among race cars. This race car was first competitive, this type of race car, back in the early 1920s. And here it is in the 1980s, still the best way to get around a one-mile dirt oval. This particular machine on my left happens to be one that was constructed in 1962. Eddie Sachs, Jim Hurtubise, Bobby Marvin, Billy Casella in 1976 was the national champion on the dirt car circuit. And this machine constructed by Wally Muskowski. That same basic design continues to be competitive. This car, in point of fact, is an entrant on the 1982 series. The biggest difference between the new cars and the old cars, which you're looking at right here on the championship dirt car circuit, is probably the placement of the starter. They started these old cars right here in the front nose of the race car. They plugged in this starting device and the engine turned over and the car fired up. The new cars, here on my right, have the starters like your car at home does, inside the cockpit. Another big difference in the design of the 1982 vintage championship dirt car and the traditional design is obviously the aerodynamics. Now, you might not think that aerodynamics at a mere 140 miles an hour would have that big of a difference, but it does make that difference, and that's why a lot of the new cars have been designed with this basically outlaw sprint car nose. Now, the new car is about 200 pounds lighter than the old one. It is chock full of aluminum components, whereas the old car was all steel components. You notice the difference in the tires, the new wide modern racing tire as opposed to the old tall skinny tire that used to run around the mile racetracks. The championship dirt car of 1982 and 1962, very little difference. There's a lot of tradition and a lot of history in these race cars, and the United States Auto Club, they've got a lot invested in this division. They hope there's a lot of future also.
This race is named in honor of a great race driver, Tony Bettenhausen, who hailed from the state of Illinois, made his home at Tenley Park on the southwest side of Chicago. With 54 total entries for this event here today, we have a lot of racing coming up. Qualifying is next, and we'll be back after this. Well, the best in National Basketball Association action comes your way Sundays on ESPN. Your Total Sports Network brings you a total of 40 regular season games plus the playoffs. All the league's top stars, Irving, Magic Johnson, and Jabbar, Gervin, Isaiah Thomas, and many, many more. Your ticket to the NBA, ESPN each Sunday right here. Here at Springfield, Illinois, the track records for one lap held by Tom Bigelow, 32.660 seconds. That is a speed of 110.227 miles an hour. The 100-lap record is held by Larry Nixon at 1 hour and 28 seconds, 99.217. We're ready for qualifying for today's Tony Bettenhausen 100. And our qualifier on the track now is from Benton, Missouri. He's 27 years of age. This is Ken Schrader.
Bob, we have seen Ken Schrader on quite a number of ESPN broadcasts in the past. He's one of America's most active drivers, and Bob, I think this guy is the favorite to be the champion in this series of racing this year.
Ken Schrader in turn number 3 on his first lap of qualifying. Out of turn number 4, broad sliding the car onto the main straightaway. First lap of qualifying complete for Ken Schrader. We asked him a little bit earlier about his chances for winning the Silver Crown Series, and this is what Ken Schrader had to say about that.
Well, looking awful forward to this. It's probably the toughest division, but we're blessed with an awful good equipment, some awful nice car owners, and Champ Dirt Car and Glenn Fortune. People from Rose Brothers Trucking are putting up enough money that we have the pieces we need, so we're sure going to try awful hard.
First lap of qualifying for Ken Schrader is 33.863 seconds. That is a speed of 106.310. The second lap is quicker, 33.483 seconds, and the speed 107.517 miles an hour. Well, Jeff Bloom in car number 57 is headed down the main straightaway, but he is not up to speed. Jeff is from Kalamazoo, Michigan, and he is going to be pulling into the pit area, so Jeff Bloom will not be qualifying at this time. If he does come back out on the track for a qualification attempt, he will only receive 1 lap. Next scheduled qualifier would be Gary Gray in car number 83. Total of 54 entries here this afternoon for this very prestigious race on the Silver Crown USAC Series.
Bob, let's talk about the number of entries as we're in the early stages of qualifying here. It's a big part of the story. With well over 50 entries, that is a very punishing number for the racetrack. What happens every time a car goes out to qualify, it eats up a little more of the real racy or the real moist part of the upper surfaces of this dirt oval. Those drivers who drew numbers of 35 and higher may well be in jeopardy of having, I don't want to use the word legitimate, but let's say almost a fair opportunity of getting into this field. It's going to be very tough for guys who have a high qualifying number to get in. Now, there are a few of the drivers, the veteran drivers, who say that the last 5 or 10 numbers, as we look at Gary Gray pulling in the pit area, Gary also using up one of those very valuable low qualifying numbers as he pulls into the pit area, started to say a few of the veteran drivers feel that the super high numbers from like 45 to 55 might also be a good place to be. The track will be slower then, but predictable. It will be harder and much drier. They'll be letting air out of the tires. They'll be changing the chassis, those with the high numbers, and they may have a better chance than the drivers who drew the numbers between 25 and, say, 45.
Manny Rockhold in car 76.